perhaps a secret technology. It's very odd that very few of these have been found, and it may be that ship owners and navigators in Greek times were extremely careful about who they shared this technology with.
If you look at history as a straight line, an endless upward climb from stone tools to silicon chips, you are making a mistake. Progress is not a guarantee. It is a fragile flame, easily extinguished. In 1901, a rusted chunk of bronze was dragged up from the floor of the Mediterranean. It looked like garbage, a calcified lump of decay that had spent 2,000 years being eaten by the sea. It should have been thrown back. But inside that rot was a secret that shouldn't exist. When the corrosion was finally peeled away, it revealed a technology so advanced it disrupted the entire timeline of human innovation. It contained differential gears, precise astronomical tracking, and a mechanical complexity that rivals the finest Swiss watches of the 18th century. This object is 2,000 years old. It arrived a millennium before the first mechanical clock was supposed to be invented. It suggests a terrifying possibility. We are not the first sophisticated civilization to master the sciences. We are simply the survivors who found the wreckage. Join us as we open the impossible box known as the Antikythera mechanism. The year is 1900. The location is the violent stretch of water between Crete and the Greek mainland, off the coast of a barren rock called Antikythera. A team of sponge divers from Simi, led by Captain Dimitrios Kondos, is sheltering from a brutal storm. They are desperate. To make the trip worth it, they need to dive, storm or no storm. One of the divers, Elias Stadiatis, puts on his heavy canvas suit and copper helmet. He descends 45 meters into the dark. He is looking for sponges. Minutes later, the signal rope goes wild. Elias is hauled to the surface, hyperventilating, eyes wide with terror. He tears off his helmet and raves about a heap of rotting corpses on the seafloor. Men, women, horses, dead and decaying in the gloom. The captain thinks nitrogen narcosis has set in. He suits up and dives down to check, but Elias wasn't hallucinating. They weren't corpses, they were statues, hundreds of them, marble figures eaten by marine worms and bronze gods preserved in the silt. It was the wreck of a massive Roman grain carrier, a titan of the ancient seas that went down around 60 BCE. It was the richest shipwreck ever discovered. For months they hauled up masterpieces, statues of Hercules, delicate glassware, jewelry. The world watched in awe as the Antikythera youth was pulled from the waves. But amidst the gold and marble, one item was ignored. Item 15087, a shoebox-sized lump of calcified bronze and wood. It looked like nothing. It sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens for 2 years, drying out, crumbling, until May 17, 1902. Archaeologist Valerio Stice noticed the lump had cracked open as it dried out. He leaned in with a magnifying glass. There, embedded in the rock, was a precision gear wheel. Stice froze. This was impossible. Gears of this size and precision did not exist in antiquity. The ancient Greeks had simple wheels, pulleys, perhaps a crude windlass. They did not have precision clockwork. Critics immediately accused the museum of fraud. They claimed a modern piece of machinery, a clock from the ship perhaps, had fallen onto the wreck and fused with the ancient metal. It was the only logical explanation. Because if that gear truly belonged to the ancient world, then history as we knew it was wrong. For decades, the mechanism refused to speak. The corrosion was too thick, the damage too severe. It wasn't until the turn of the 21st century, bringing with it high-resolution X-ray tomography, that we could finally see inside. What researchers found shocked the scientific community. This wasn't just a gear, it was a machine. A tangled, hyper-complex system of at least 30 bronze gears, originally housed in a wooden case the size of a large book. It is the world's first analog computer. On the front, a dial displayed the Greek zodiac and the Egyptian calendar. It didn't just track days, it accounted for the wobble of the Earth. The builders knew the calendar year wasn't perfect, so the device had a dial to adjust for the extra quarter day in the solar year. But the true genius lay in the back. The upper back dial featured a spiral groove with 235 divisions, representing the Metonic cycle, a 19-year period used to reconcile the lunar and solar calendars. Inside this mechanism was a breakthrough that shouldn't have happened for another 1,700 years. It's called a pin and slot mechanism. You see, the moon doesn't orbit the Earth at a constant speed. Because its orbit is elliptical, it speeds up when it's close to us and slows down when it's far away. This is known as the first anomaly. The Greeks didn't know about gravity or ellipses, but they knew the math. The Antikythera mechanism uses two gears, slightly off-center, connected by a pin that slides back and forth in a slot. This mechanical trip perfectly mimics the moon's variable speed. Kepler wouldn't describe this motion until the 17th century, yet here it was, captured in bronze before the birth of Christ. The lower dial predicted eclipses. It could tell you decades in advance exactly when the sun would go dark, and even the hour it would happen. It also tracked the Olympiad cycle, counting down the 4 years between the Olympic Games. This was a machine that organized the cosmos. It was a universe in a box. The tolerances on the gears are accurate to within 1/10 of a millimeter. The teeth are equilateral triangles, hand-filed with a consistency that implies a master craftsman using tools we have no record of. The question that haunts archaeologists isn't just how they built it, it's why we only found one. Technology does not exist in a vacuum. You cannot build a Ferrari in the Stone Age. To create the Antikythera mechanism, you need a civilization capable of advanced metallurgy, high-level mathematics, and generations of astronomical data. You need an economy that can support research and development. The wreck dates to around 60 BCE, but the calibration of the device suggests it was designed closer to 205 BCE. This points to the fingerprint of the greatest mind of the era, Archimedes. Archimedes was killed by a Roman soldier in 212 BCE during the siege of Syracuse. Legend says he was working on a geometric problem in the dirt when he was struck down. The Roman statesman Cicero later wrote about a device taken from Archimedes' home, a sphere of bronze that showed the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. For centuries, historians thought Cicero was speaking metaphorically. Now, we know he was being literal. X-rays revealed thousands of tiny text characters etched onto the device's covers. It wasn't just a machine, it came with a user manual. The text mentions distinct astronomical events and uses names for months that align with Corinthian colonies, likely Syracuse or Rhodes. This implies a terrifying reality. The Antikythera mechanism was not a unique magical artifact, it was a product. It was likely manufactured in a workshop. It had a standard design. The existence of a user manual suggests it was meant to be operated by someone other than its creator. Perhaps a wealthy Roman patron, a general, or a politician who wanted to hold the power of the heavens in his hands. If there was a workshop, there were prototypes. There were successors. There was an entire industry of analog computing that flourished in the Mediterranean. And then the lights went out. The ship carrying this device sank. The crew drowned. The computer was buried in the mud. In a strange twist of fate, that disaster is the only reason we know it existed. Bronze is valuable. In times of war and crisis, statues, tools, and machines are melted down to make swords, shields, and cannons. Every other device like this, and there must have been others, was likely recycled into weaponry as the Roman Empire collapsed and the world descended into the Dark Ages. The knowledge required to cut those gears, to calculate those orbits, didn't just stall, it vanished. The complexity of the Antikythera mechanism wouldn't be matched until the astronomical clocks of the 14th century, a gap of 1,500 years. 15 centuries of scientific amnesia. This is the true horror of the Antikythera mechanism. It proves that progress is not a straight line. We can climb the mountain of knowledge, reach the summit, and fall off. We tend to think of the ancient Greeks as philosophers in togas, thinking big thoughts but lacking the tech to execute them. This device proves they were on the verge of an industrial revolution. They had the math, they had the mechanics. If they had combined this gearing with steam power, which they also experimented with in the form of the Aeola pile, the Industrial Revolution could have started 2,000 years ago. We could be colonizing the stars by now. Instead, the civilization crumbled. The libraries burned, the artisans died, and their secrets died with them. The gears stopped turning. When we look at the Antikythera mechanism, we aren't just looking at a cool gadget from the past. We are looking at a tombstone for human potential. It serves as a silent warning to our modern world. We surround ourselves with technology far more advanced than bronze gears. We rely on silicon, satellites, and servers. We assume this knowledge is permanent. But the people who built this machine thought the same thing. They thought their empire would last forever. They thought their science was immortal. All it took was time, war, and a shift in priorities to erase 1,000 years of progress. The Antikythera mechanism survived by accident. It waited in the dark, under the pressure of the sea, to remind us of what we are capable of achieving, and how easily it can all be lost. How many other machines are still down there, buried under the silt of history, waiting to rewrite the story of who we are? Or perhaps the scarier question is, what technologies do we possess today that will be considered impossible myths by the people digging through our wreckage in 2,000 years? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please like and subscribe. Click the video on your screen for another mystery lost to time.